Recovery Services Board is called to order for April the 16th. Can we have the roll call?
Reverend Gordon,
Present.
Mr. Arnold, Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell,
Present.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Carter,
Here.
Ms. Clark. Here. Ms. Friedman,
Here.
Ms. Harding,
Present.
Ms. Howe, Ms. Mendoza-Locke, Mr. Knowles,
Here.
Mr. O'Connor, Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Mr. Stengel, Major White,
Here.
Ms. White.
Okay, thank you. We'll have a recognition of our visitors.
Julie Rupp, board staff.
Thank you.
Galloway, board staff.
Shannon Hedge, board staff.
Majority Council Paul Lewis, and St. Paul Community Center Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
Michael Carter, board staff.
Dr. Carl.
Board staff.
Lynette Fear, Neighborhood Properties.
Alexandria Thomas Holland, neighborhood properties.
Richard Arnold,
Amy Cole, Unison.
Elijah Jones, board staff.
Thank you very much. All right, now we have the determination of items to be removed from the consent agenda, and I'll read them. Meeting minutes from March the 5th, Treasurer's report from February fiscal year 24 approval, fiscal year 2024 120-day notice appeal approvals, which include Harbor, Task of Northwest Ohio, Learning Club, fiscal year 2025 provider agreement approval, health officer designation, ITP hardware, software training, and data migration approval, Danny's Place funds approval, Ohio Moss landlord incentive funds. Is there a motion to,
So moved. Second.
all right, roll call vote?
Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Ms. Carter,
Yes.
Ms. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Friedman,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Mr. Knowles,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Major White.
Yes.
Approved. All right, now we'll have the fiscal year 2024 120-day notice. Amy.
Hello, everyone. I'm on page 15 of the board packet. So giving an update on the 120-day notice appeals. At the Planning and Oversight meeting, we shared that NPI and ZEF Center's appeals were still pending. Since that time, board staff met with agency staff from both organizations to negotiate and resolve the appeals. First, we're gonna talk about NPI. So we met with them, and just a reminder, they received notice for their ACF Adult Care Facility Program as a result of the increase in the residential state supplement subsidy that's available through the State Department. NPI was asked to transition all board subsidies that currently reside in the ACF homes to transition to RSS subsidy if they are eligible. So the projection was that this transfer would result in savings for the overall program. So the reduction at the 120-day notice was a reduction in the budget by $50,000. NPI appealed on the basis that the transition to RSS is taking longer than expected, so the savings has yet to be realized while the applications are pending. So there are currently, at the time of this motion, 19 applicants on board subsidy awaiting to transition over to the RSS subsidy. So after the negotiation conversation with NPI, it was agreed that the reduction would remain at $50,000, and this was based on the probability that of those 19 that are pending, that at least 3 of those applications would be approved by fiscal year 25. So that number was based on a formula of the rate for the subsidy is $1,400. So $1,400 times those 3 potential residents for 12 months gets us to just a little over $50,000. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but there is a motion on the middle of page 15 for that.
What about the 16 that are on the waiting list? Those, they'll get transitioned in once the other funds kick in.
Yeah, so they're all still in process. They're sort of in the queue for the state to review the applications and approve them.
Okay,
But the
okay.
$50,000 that we were addressing to reduce the budget by really just accounts for 3 of those people. So as this is all transitioning into this new RSS, it's not new RSS funding, but it's available RSS funding, we agreed that at least 3 of those would happen, and that would take us to the 50,000.
Okay.
So, maybe it's late in the day and parking on the street, but I guess it sounds like the conflict in the appeal for the 120-day notice has resolved itself.
Yes.
So why, I guess I don't understand the basis of this motion. That's what's confusing me is the
Okay,
motion.
so our intent was to reduce by $50,000, as was already stated,
Right.
based on the likelihood that people would transition to RSS, therefore not needing our subsidy.
Right.
The appeal was based on not realizing those transitions yet.
Okay.
So the savings has not occurred. We agreed, and NPI has also agreed, that should those, at least 3 of those 19 be approved, that they would agree to the recommendation for resolving the appeal, which is the $50,000. So we didn't change our recommendation. Our original recommendation was to reduce their budget by $50,000. What we did was put in a safeguard that they wouldn't be caught with $50,000 less, unless it was unless they wouldn't be caught with $50,000 less because those bodies had already moved over to RSS. So that's all it's doing, is just accounting for, we'll get those people approved, that'll be in the next year, and the savings we will recoup.
That makes sense.
Now, there's likely to be more, but we just don't know what that looks like yet.
Okay, so the motion is asking us to allocate the funds that we would have been allocating but for the 120-day notice anyway, and then it's making an allowance that if the condition preceding 3 people, then we're backing it.
Correct.
up. Okay.
Which we believe will happen,
In due course.
yes.
Okay. All right.
I recognize it's a rather unique way of settling this out, but it made sense
Okay.
to hold them harmless pending the actual resolution of some of those applications.
Okay.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, Amy, again, Zeph Center.
Yep, so moving right along on page 15, still towards the bottom there is the Zeph Center update. So we met with Zeph Center as well. Zeph Center also appealed the changes to the subsidy schedule related to the hardship category. So if you'll remember when we did the 120-day notice, we recommended, the board staff recommended changing the hardship category, which is also known as Rider Code H. So it went from 250% of poverty to 350% of poverty, and the recommendation was to reduce that to 300% of poverty, so 250 to 100%. Board staff recommended this change to ensure that the long-term sustainability funding remains available for the most vulnerable residents in Lucas County, as we discussed in the past. So we met with Zeph Center, and after, through that negotiation process, through those conversations, board staff and Zeph Center agreed to maintain the recommended changes to the subsidy schedule, specifically the rider H code, which then impacts their overall purchase of service allocation. So on page 16 is the motion reflecting the changes to their POS allocation impacted from the subsidy schedule.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Motion. Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Okay. Amy, you're up again.
All right, page 16, the Ohio Mass COVID mitigation funds. Ohio Mass made available COVID mitigation funds to all the counties throughout Ohio, and Lucas County was awarded $107,885.66, which those 66 cents are important, so remember that. We had 2 requests for the use of these funds, and both were approved by Ohio Mass to utilize them. The first request was from the Zeph Center. Their fire suppression panel was sending false alarms to the fire department. As a result of the fire department having to chronically go out to the Zeph Center because of these false alarms, they put this building on bypass, which meant then Zeph Center was required to create a protocol to ensure the safety of the building, so they had to utilize staff to constantly monitor the building and make sure that there were no fires and everything was good. So they have requested to utilize the funds to fix their fire suppression panel and also to for reimbursement of their additional staffing costs, both of which were approved by Ohio Mass, and their total request was $70,000. Unison also requested to use the funds to upgrade their current HVAC system at their Star Avenue location. So the hope is that this will improve their air quality of the building by allowing the system to be controlled electronically, and then therefore creating other efficiencies throughout their HVAC system. Their request is the remaining balance, which is the $37,885.66. And the reason why that's important is because there's actually an error on the motion on the back of page 17 where the write-up is accurate, but the motion actually says 60 cents and it should say 66 cents.
And that's why 66 cents is important.
So there are 2 motions there, one for Unison's allocation and one for the Zeph Center's allocation, as well as us accepting the allocation from Ohio Mass.
Thank you, Amy. Are there any questions?
Nope, so moved.
Second.
All right, it's moved in second, and we'll note again on the last motion where it says the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board for Lucas County allocates $37,885.66 to Unison's help to upgrade their HVAC system, and authorizes the executive director to execute an agreement to that effect. Roll call vote.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Scott?
Okay, I'll take the last one while Miss Jenny Hoffman is on vacation in sunny San Antonio. If you're watching, Jenny, hi.
Hey, Jenny.
She's not.
That would say.
So, what we have here is a situation where NPI's rental assistance budget has increased beyond the current means of affordability for the number of people that we would like served. They have estimated, and we've confirmed through our financial information, that they're about $40,000 short of housing the people in their rental assistance program through the rest of the year. So think about mid-May through June. So they need about $40,000 to cover the losses related to that because of escalating rent increases over the last several years. We checked out why the rents are increasing, and it's related to fair market value. HUD establishes those, and NPI follows that. And there's a few other nuances, but it's nothing substantive. And so, given that housing is a big priority for us, and they house a vulnerable population, we met with them to discuss, okay, how do we resolve this? How can we deal with this? They've already took the initiative to connect with LMH, Metropolitan Housing, to see if more vouchers are available. But in the meantime, there needs to be a financial contribution made so that people don't go unhoused. This is the first time we've come to you with a request that is outside of our forecasted budget. And consistent with our conversation that we had last month, where if we're going to add something, we're going to have to figure out where that savings is. We have identified that we have $200,000 in regional urgent care funding that we can use in lieu of local levy dollars for this fiscal year that will offset the investment of $40,000. And ZEP is on board with that. We're already making the changes to the contract, and this is a great opportunity for us because this is a use it or lose it kind of situation with that urgent care funds. And so we don't want them to go unused, plus, given our precarious budget situation, we want to utilize all of the funds that we have available. The reason why we have that $200,000 amount, though, is because the total amount was $225,000 for the year, but it was supposed to be designated only towards those outside of the county, coming into Lucas County for urgent care. We were able to work with our regional partners to get that switched so that it can include Lucas County residents too. So that's why we're able to use that.
Okay, I remember the outside.
So
Out of
40,000.
I'm sorry. No, out of curiosity, the $40,000 and the folks who they're helping to support housing for, how many people does that represent? Do you know by chance?
So in the write-up here, and we have representatives from NPI that if I screw this up, we'll look to them and see if they can clarify it. But NPI typically serves between 117 and 125 people.
Okay.
So the 40,000, is going to supplement, do the math, I don't know, 40 people-ish?
Oh, I see it.
40 months worth of rent, or 40, something like that, because it's what, $720, $730 a month for fair market, something like that. 790? 600, okay, 690. So I was pretty close to 700. So that's, just do the math, and it's going to contribute to, whatever that monthly amount is. 690 divided by 40.
So Scott, there's 40,000 that's needed. We have available 200,000.
That doesn't mean we all want to spend it all in one place.
So the difference is it's just going to sit there
It
until.
will be incorporated into our next budget forecast, because we always have things that come up, right? You guys have been here a while. so-
Contingency.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll just go to our undesignated fund. Yes, ma'am.
So what does this do to urgent care for people?
It doesn't do anything other than change the payer source.
Okay, not cutting their funds?
No.
or
It
cutting
just
the people
swip,
they serve?
it swaps out regional funds for local funds. Other way around. Local funds to use regional funds. That's all it does.
Any other questions?
So moved.
Okay. All right, thank you. Roll call vote.
Tell me when you send this out.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Knowles?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. We have a director's report.
Okay, I'll,
Before we go to that, just a question. With regard to this increase, for the next fiscal year, I take it that's gonna somehow be part of the negotiations for the next round of contracts going forward?
so we're gonna let the LMH voucher process play itself out before we can come back and
Okay.
say, okay, do we need to increase that
Gotcha.
allocation?
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question, thank you. I should have mentioned that. Okay, director's report. I have a whole host of dates for you guys.
Okay.
Let's start with May's meeting schedule. We will hold our Planning and Oversight Committee meeting on May 7th. We are scheduling an executive and nominating committee meeting. We haven't had one of those in a while, for May 14th. And then the board meeting will be on May 21st. Now, at least two of these meetings, the planning and oversight and the board meeting, should already be on your schedules. For those of you who are on the executive committee, I will send you invites, and of course, everybody else is always invited to be on, to show up on the executive committee if you so choose. So, just want to make sure you have those. Also, this is an important date. June 10th, 11 a.m. So that's a Monday, June 10th, 11 a.m. at 2333 Arlington Avenue. That is behind the Northwest Ohio Psychiatric Hospital. We will be hosting our groundbreaking for Danny's Place. So that's a big day. I hope all of you can make it. We will be creating electronic invitations and looking for RSVPs within the next couple weeks. We have a little committee that's coming together. We've never done a groundbreaking, so we're learning as we go, and we have some folks that are helping us with that. Also,
There's shovels in the budget?
pardon me?
There's shovels in the budget?
Shovels are in the Danny's Place budget, yes. Good. It's always a tent if it's raining. The director of Ohio Moss has already confirmed attendance. Congresswoman Capter has confirmed attendance. Of course, we'll have some local officials there. We are also inviting the governor, and hopefully he can attend. Ohio Moss is handling that. We'll have representatives from NAMI. We'll get the speaking schedule together. And you'll be able to see, because I think we'll be actually doing some site work in advance of the groundbreaking, because we're, with the approval today for clearing up the funding, we'll be able to start moving a little more. We've already made some, what do they call those, advanced buys on certain things, that long lead items is what they call it. A couple $100,000 for a generator, some switch panels that are required. We'll receive our second bid package for concrete and site stuff probably by the end of this week, and make selections and move on. But from here on out, with the exception of cleaning up some funding stuff related to Danny's Place, it's unlikely I need to come back to you for approval of like contractors and things like that now. So You should be hearing updates as to progress. Hopefully we'll get some pictures to you. The only thing out hanging there is, besides, oh, by the way, we're over budget $1.5 million, finding out and figuring out what that looks like, is coming back to you with the approval from the city of Toledo ARPA funds for Danny's Place that will have approved. We're working on looking at those ARPA funds for all the projects and getting a handle on where we're at with them, because we'll have to allocate next year's city of Toledo ARPA funds, either in the May if it's ready, or June if it's ready to go. So that's kind of the latest on the Danny's Place. Those of you who got invites, and including all the board and all the staff, for the multi-system networking event at Toll House on the 24th from 5 to 7. There's still plenty of room. So if you haven't registered, if you would like to bring somebody, register again.
Where do we register?
I sent you a link, but I can resend it if you want. And if you...
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
I did. You did?
I read it.
I'm sure that it's there, I just
Yeah.
need to go look for it.
Yeah, I sent it a couple weeks ago, so...
Okay.
I saw it.
And the link is at the bottom, okay, I'm gonna write
And
at the bottom.
I sent it
Oh, yep,
to...
there it is. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. There's plenty of room. We only have about 40 people registered right now, right? Yeah. So we still have a half a room to fill. So it's a great opportunity to just do some networking for the sake of just systems coming together. Everybody will receive a book, The Animals I Want to See by Tom Seaman. It's a Vance copy. Seaman will be there to do a little facilitated Q&A about his book and how he got to where he is. Hopefully there'll be, well, I know it's Toll House, so there'll be some quality food there for everybody to enjoy, and it should be a relatively joyous event. So hopefully everybody can make it. The other thing I wanted to mention is I will be going to Columbus a little more often over the next 4 or 5 months. I was appointed to the governor's work group on competency restoration and diversion. Appointed by the governor, representing the Ohio Association of County Behavioral Health Authorities, to sit on this committee, that work group that's meeting every other week. And its goals are to ensure adequate access to state psychiatric beds for those experiencing a crisis. Does that sound familiar, Linda? Developing recommendation to enhance Ohio's outpatient competency restoration programming, developing best practices and strategies for expanding jail diversion programs for mental health, for individuals with behavioral health disorders, and developing strategies to expand access to jail-based competency restoration and treatment. So it's a very timely topic for us here locally. We spend a lot of time locally talking about competency, and specifically how to access private and state psychiatric beds for those who are most acute in our community and have struggled with gaining access because they burned a lot of bridges through just through the sequencing of their illnesses. So we are trying to work that process as best we can, but it's literally like Groundhog's Day, isn't it, Linda? They have the same situation, we can't seem to get any progress, same situation, then another and another and another. It's good that the governor has identified, and it's come up on his radar screen now, that state hospital access in particular is an issue. But you know, Senate Bill 2 clients can't go to state hospital beds because of the law, that they're diverted, so they gotta do something else. Well, those are the people that cycle through jail, homeless shelters, emergency rooms, and rarely do we see a successful outcome for that population. And we need to do something differently as a state, and we're trying to do something differently local as well. And so this is a great opportunity for us to think about the way we do things and maybe put a little bit more pressure on folks to change the way we're doing things, including us.
Are there any statistics on how large the population is?
I don't have a number locally for that, but if we weren't in a public meeting, we could say some names and I think people would all know. You know, I mean, it's
I realize one is too
right,
many, but-
right. It's the folks that everybody knows. And then there's higher profile cases that end up in the jail, decompensate, and can't move them anywhere. And so it's a real frustration for jail staff, as Major White will attest to. But also the provider network struggles, our crisis system struggles with that, housing struggles, and it can't just be one part of a system that changes. Because if I gain access to hospitals, then I need someplace for that person to go once they stabilize so that we can get the next person in. And so housing's got to be a part of it. Treatment Act teams, thinking about the way we use state funding a little differently, private hospital access. And so there's going to be the members of this committee. It's led by the Department of Mental Health, but we also have representatives from the state associations, criminal courts and DRC and the Medicaid, Public Safety, Recovery Ohio, behavioral health agencies, advocacy groups. There's some local stakeholders, individuals with lived experience are joining the group, and then boards, because we're a big part of, throughout Ohio, funding the gaps that aren't covered by Medicaid or don't have a special fund.
No, it's interesting you're bringing this up because I got into a conversation with an individual, and the conversation was regarding how one of their clients, is caught in this and has had 70 cases over the last 10 years. And that's just one person. So when you think about that one person going to the court, through our courts, 70 times
Wow.
in 10 years.
If they even showed up for court.
Right, sometimes you have to go find them, and depending on the judge and their patience, I just was blown away by that statistic, and it was an interesting conversation to say the least. So I think it's fantastic that you're at the table, Scott.
At 3 right now, 2 of them have never been in the criminal justice system before. And, their family wants them inpatient, then when they need it. There's no beds. Even if they go through probate, they're on the same waiting list that everybody else is. So hopefully you can scare up some more beds someplace.
Well, I will say that there's going to have to be a compromise between state psychiatric beds and private psychiatric beds. There are beds. We have 286 private psychiatric beds in Lucas County.
But they only keep them for 2 weeks.
Private. Right.
But they only keep them for 2 weeks.
Well, and I will, if that, I'll say that first. But the average stay at NOPH for a civil patient is only 16 days. So there isn't much difference. And I think this is a great conversation because I kind of led in the middle of my statements is we gotta do things differently for this population. What we're doing is not working, right? And it's not working all over the state. So we're not unique, but so if people need to stay in a private hospital longer, then we need to restructure payer sources that allow that to occur. We need to rethink about Medicaid as a reimburser for mental health residential treatment services. They currently don't have that right now. Is there an enhanced reimbursement that needs to be for private hospitals for acute versus regular, non-acute clients? Those are the conversations that have to occur if you're gonna gain access to these beds. And I think that the hospitals, private hospitals, are open to those conversations here locally, but we just gotta get to that point. So, where it's literally meeting every other week with a report at the end of July, so it's intense, and it aligns with the starting discussions for the next biennium budget. So it'll be in play for the next governor's budget.
So I think that when you're talking about beds and you're talking about individuals in this situation, the connection coming out is really important. You can keep a person in a place and they can be in there and be stable in there all day long, but it's living that out here. That's where a lot of the issues end up happening at, the connection that comes out. So those peer services being connected, like back in 1965, when they were trying to utilize it, then connecting those peer services so people are coming out with a connection and they're being able to walk through that process. Because of course family, when family sends an individual, family has an expectation of seeing that person come out with a certain change. There's an expectation of a certain change. And even if that certain change is not seen, then an unmet expectations puts pressure on the individual, not the family member, but the individual, because the family member puts pressure on them. So it's about helping that person understand, helping both the family member understand that it is about this person having to go through the process of change. Even you have to change at the same time, recognizing that they are not going to be like they were when they went in, but there may not be how you should expect to see them when
That's a
they
great
come out.
point, thank you. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, and then finally, I'm gonna ask Dr. Carter, who's lurking in the wings here, to give you a bit of an update on our local Help Now analytics.
This works. It's a PDF, so I'm not sure if the clicker works or not. It does, Phil, so that works. But thanks, Scott. We wanted to just share with you guys some of the analytics we have for the Local Help Now app. These analytics, as you can see, goes from October 19th through January 26th. Once April is done, we'll be able to get it from January to April, which let me preface by saying that'll be the most accurate and most complete analytics we can have. Because going from October to January, part of that was before the mailer. So that October piece is before our mailer went out, we did some of the work, it went live, but we weren't necessarily already advertising it. So when we get the next set of analytics, we'll have our billboard, we'll have our mailer will have been out, we'll have the radio ads. So I just want you to know those numbers right away. So we've had 1,018 total users, which equates to 1,706 sessions, with the average duration being 3 minutes and 28 seconds that someone's been on the app.
That's
Okay?
long.
That's very long, really
Yeah,
good.
I'm like, what?
You can see that most people are looking at it 69.9 by mobile, 29.7 by desktop, 0.4 by tablet. That kind of shocked me. But then you can kind of see over to the side what devices you're using. iOS, Windows, Android, Macintosh, even Chrome OS, Linux. Direct versus referral versus organic. And this is what I meant when I talked about how they're finding our site. Direct, our users arrive at our site via the app, saved link, or by entering their URL. So when we had you download it to the phone, or you type in Local Help Now app, that's how you get there. So LC Mentally Well / Local Help Now get you to this higher number, which you see is close to 900 people got to us that way. So that's not the referrals, that's not organic, it's not social media, right? You've got a very limited amount of that there, which we know now is going to be significantly higher. You can see the cities go from Toledo to Moses Lake. Savannah is like number 9, right? Detroit is high up there. Part of the thing they told me is IP addresses. So don't let that get us caught off guard. If you have your IP address set to show somewhere different, you can be sitting next to me and show that you're in Cincinnati. So that was something important for us to learn. Also was that you have other people watching what we're doing. So that was important for us to see as well. Top events happening. An event is a unique user interaction with a session, all right? And they may have multiple events within one session. So when they add that up, you know, page, view, scroll, session start are your top 3. But even first visit, treatment card, click, support card, number 9, housing card, 10, provider website, you can see the unique things that are happening. So the event count of where they're actually going, what they're doing. They're starting a session, their first visit, 984. So 984 people going to look at that first visit, I think is a pretty big deal. 182 looking for support is a really big deal. So the page that is viewed the most, obviously, is the home page, right? But after you get past coming back to that page, it's treatment services. And then you had support services and then housing services. So, I mean, that's our big 3, right? Treatment, support, housing. I think that was pretty good to see. Number 7, long-term housing. Number 8, alcohol and drug assessment. That was good. Number 9, opiate. Number 10, homelessness. If you look at all of our numbers, let me go back, I'm sorry. If you look at these in the next couple of pages I'm going to show you, you're going to see that treatment, opioid treatment, and housing shows up a lot. You look at the top pages, view, service, treatment, opioid, right? Number 2 on the screen. So when you're actually going to a page outside of the home page. When they went to search, number 2, service, treatment, opioid was number 1. Housing, long-term housing is number 2. Service, treatment, mental health assessment is number 3. So that gives you an idea of that support I was mentioning about. Number 9, you'll see service housing again. So the fact that we have group homes on there is a big help because they can click on there and find the list of group homes that we have available and be able to see where they are, get a phone number and call on their own. Top pages view, continue, you see is mental health housing is number 11, homelessness resources number 12. So we see that idea of housing, homelessness again, being very high on our systems. So our other metrics, just really quick, number of clicks, crisis line 39, warm line 61. That's huge. Those are 2 things that we advertise almost on everything. One of those numbers is on there. So that made us feel really, really good about that. Actually going to our personal website 44 times. Harm reduction 33. So back to that opioid treatment, if you want to see the correlation, what we see is 33 here, right? The guardianship board 51. And then opiate treatment providers was 46. But we know they clicked on a provider website 110 times. They asked for directions 18 times. They asked for the phone number 11 times. So it's working. People are actually taking the steps to get to help. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can you help me understand the value and the reasoning for dividing homelessness to long-term or housing, to long-term housing, homelessness, and housing services, and the...
Yeah, that's because when we're looking at this data, we're looking at it from the back end. So the data is coming into the pages they went to. But if you think about it, you have to think about the app from the front end when you're searching. So on the front side, we have it divided so people would find the resource faster. So if you're looking for a shelter versus if you're looking for a group home versus if you're looking for some other type of housing support like the homelessness board, for example. All of those come under those different categories. So then when we collect the data on the back end, we know that they were looking for the long-term housing or they were looking for a short-term housing situation or they just needed some ancillary supports to go along with it. Maybe it was recovery housing, maybe it was a program at Unison that they went to where they saw, didn't know that was there. So it would fall under a different category.
So the tabs on the home page
Right.
correlate with the way you have them divided here
Yes.
or with what you just said to me?
That both, to be both in the same,
Okay.
right? So what happens is the categories, when you go on the website, you may go to housing, and then you click that housing category, and it's on the back end, it's gonna categorize that maybe as long-term housing. But you may be in there looking at group homes. So each one of the times you hit a group home, it's gonna show an event for long-term housing. But if you go back and say, well, that's not what I needed a shelter. You go back in, you click to hit St. Paul's, then another category is gonna populate. So when we come here, we're gonna see long-term housing and we're gonna see housing support, because they went to both.
So one user may have hit multiple.
Right, right.
Trying to get exactly where they wanted to.
Right, so
Okay.
that's why there was a difference between, notice the 13,000 number in the beginning that I talked about versus, I'll show it to you. to make it make sense. Yeah, 13,000 events versus 1,000 total users,
Gotcha.
right there. That's the difference.
Gotcha.
So that one person could represent 13 actions,
Sure.
right? But when you get down to it, you can see exactly where they really went. So this was our top 10 places they went. And then we can dig in further and say, okay, well, where else did they go? And then that's how we get here and say, oh, well, they were looking for support, they were looking for housing services, that way.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I assume that you're inferring that you can track, you're not really tracking them, are you? Tracking where they go?
Do you mean like, can I track you as an individual where you're going?
Exactly.
No. They can track your action in that session.
But
That makes sense. But I can't track you.
Wouldn't it be, is it possible in the future to be able to track where they're going to determine the level of need?
That's the question I don't know, so I can't answer that question.
I don't know whether,
I don't know that answer, Dr.
Well, if you-
Theoretically, it sounds great, though.
If you recall, that was one of the philosophical
Right.
questions we had when we
Bill
were
first started, right?
Yeah, no,
Right.
we
So
don't want
let's
to
say
do
that
that.
they consented to be tracked.
Right.
No, I don't think we want to do that.
No, because once you start tracking individuals like that, the security level you have to have and the permissions they have to give you
Yeah.
is
You gotta sign
really,
up.
I don't know how to say this, in depth. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, and then you're still sitting there with the potential of a lawsuit
Right, and
because of the invasion of privacy,
Yeah.
even
Right.
though I've given you permission.
yeah, and what are we gonna do with the information? And I mean, I understand the value of having it and being able to reach out and help, but then it's going to be a deterrent,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, to people just.
And I think our providers are better suited for that.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
Plus, the IP address I was going to mention could still potentially tell us they were somewhere they're not, right? Like Cincinnati or San Antonio. So we would have that issue. But I will say the benefit to us with the data, one of the first things we looked at is once we saw what people were looking for, it helped us in the marketing side to be able to determine what should we be marketing? What are the people going to? What are they looking for? And what types of things should we make sure is on the website, social media, billboard, radio, so that we're making sure the needs are out there and genuinely being met.
That's a powerful tool. If not, you're kind of shooting in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
What does it take you to when you click support?
What does it take you to when you
Well,
click
right
support?
here, I'll show you, because I've got the.
Yeah, I was gonna pull it out and say-
I was gonna answer some of Nima's questions with that, but if you go there, you've got the hotline, domestic violence, food assistance, foster care adoption, medication drop box locations, Noxalon and Narcan, peer recovery services, referral and information, senior adult services, social recreations services,
Yeah.
transportation. I mean, the list is.
It's a long list.
Is
Yeah,
NAMI
no
on
one
there?
can tell you everything that's there.
Is NAMI in there?
NAMI is on the site. All of our funded providers are on the site. Now, they're all officially there, and then we have a lot of extra organizations there, like Cherry Street Mission's not there, but being added. But you can go find those type of organizations there as well. We try to make it as inclusive as possible to anyone that wanted to be on. They had an opportunity to fill out a survey, show us what they were designated to provide, and then we made sure that it was accurate on the site.
Fill out a survey. If you didn't fill out a survey, you could have talked to somebody.
You could have talked to
more
somebody.
than once.
Yeah.
And there were ample opportunities for all certified providers to be on here.
Right, not
And
just the ones we.
So we did an initial load with
Right.
anybody who was wanting to be on first, and then now as it's getting going, people are calling Michael and say, hey, I want to be on this, what do I need to do?
Right.
So that sort of addresses hopefully your concern, because people then
Right,
have,
it does.
I take it a link to get to the agencies
Right.
to seek out directly with them. what
Yeah,
it is,
every
since
agency's
we don't
link is there.
provide services ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
so if you click on treatment services and then go to, let's see here, crisis, intervention, then a list of those who provide that come up, and then once you click on them, their information is there, the map, the phone number, if I wanna go to their website, their address, everything is right there. What type of payments they do, and then also an entire list of all their services is listed there. So it's super fabulous. I mean, I've tried to encourage people that I know
It
to
is great.
download it and use it, because I'm like, you might wanna download this app.
And then finally, to your point, Tina's done a very good job of also including our diversity efforts into that. So she's physically in there adding, are you LGBTQIA affirming? Do you have African American specialists, Hispanic specialists? So we're going through that aspect of making sure that all of those boxes are checked by hand. That's not just a button that you can click to put in there. You actually have to answer survey questions and then put it in. So we are drilling down as much as we possibly can to make it convenient. And so for accessibility, it doesn't get any more accessible than this, honestly. You're at home in the comfort of your own space, finding someone that can provide you the service you need in a way that you would like to have it. So, thank you.
Michael, what's next?
What's next? Well, I'm glad you said what's next. Ascend contacted us actually yesterday asking us to look at the form. They took our survey in their updated edition. They took our survey, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, this next concern it is, yeah. They took our survey and in their newest release used our method to help the other counties that are now moving to this. So that was great, except it still didn't meet some of the things we needed because Tina was doing these things by hand. And so they reached out to us yesterday to ask us directly, what fields are we looking for? What are the things from a diversity standpoint do we feel need to be there? And so that iteration is coming to where we'll be able to send every provider that wants to be on the list a link. They will go in themselves this time and fill out the survey. And then all we have to do is hit an OK and approve it. So we would sit down with our programs team, look at it, make sure that we agree with everything that's there, hit OK, and it's updated in real time. So that's going to be amazing and great. And it's going to have a couple of more robust things that people are going to be able to do so that they're able to actually access care faster, efficiently, and make sure that they're hitting those key metrics that they want. And then it's going to categorize better as well. So it'll be less clunky in trying to determine, okay, we want to put a new category there. And if there's an organization that provides something that we've never had, we're creating that category now. But together we'll be able to come up with those categories. It's kind of more universal. So if you look at any county, a shelter's listed the same way across the board, right? A school is listed the same way. So that's what's coming up next. And I'm really excited about it, looking forward to it. And I think that you guys are going to be very impressed with how it upgrades to the next level.
Nice.
Well, we're impressed now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To think 1,018 people were helped just because this existed.
It's big.
Yeah.
Okay, the only other thing I have, and honestly, the data's just slipping my mind, but there's a drug drop-off, 27th of April, 27th. It usually goes from, I think, 10 to 2 at various sites throughout Lucas County. A lot of the Krogers will have a place where you can drop off your prescription drugs. It's very easy to use. I use it myself almost every time. You literally do not even have to get out of the car. You can just take your unused prescription medications, not liquids, and put them in a bag and roll up to wherever they're collecting the drugs and hand them to the, it's May 1st. No, May 1st. Oh, thank you. I know what you meant. Hand it to the officer there and you're on your way. That quick.
Give the location again, please.
They're all over Lucas County, so police stations, Krogers, a lot of the Krogers have it. You can probably just do a drug drop-off search and it'll tell you the locations.
It's under the DEA, so DEA.gov.
DEA, okay, thank you.
Finally, thank you for the reminder. May 1st is our recognition event. If you remember, we have I think it's the 10th annual?
Oh, this
11th?
is the 11th.
See, I'm right on board.
Yeah, we did.
Our annual recognition
Yeah.
breakfast. will be on May 1st. It's always on May 1st. And it will be right over here at the hotel. You want to do this? I don't know. Is it the Hilton? Michael, if Michael was here.
I
he
feel
would.
like he's at Hilton.
Yeah, it's right next door here, where we always have it. And that will go from 8:30 to,
Recognition
It's the
ceremony
Hilton?
right
Yeah.
down the street. The Hilton inside Seagate. Yes.
and it goes from 8:30
8:30 to 11.
11. Right.
Now, will we recognize them?
Not Glass City, but the Hilton.
Yeah.
The Hilton, yeah, the Hilton inside Glass City.
Got it, got it,
Yeah.
got it.
And so we have 9 categories of winners for our recognition ceremony this year. Please don't ask me to know what all 9 are right now. I do know we have like Responder of the Year, Mental Health Professional of the Year, Consumer of the Year. So we have those 9 categories, Hall of Fame, that's gonna be honored and recognized. A link should be going out to you tomorrow so that
Okay.
you can RSVP, so that we can begin to put seating assignments and everything together. So the faster everyone does that, the better. And it shouldn't even last till 11 really, but 8:30 we're gonna start. Breakfast should start at 9. Normally we start it right at breakfast, but we realized maybe that's not the best thing to do. So we built in a little bit of time for you to get there. Breakfast will start, ceremony will be about an hour. Come dress for pictures. It should go all the way to 11. We should give ourselves time. But they'll be talking. Yes, it's like it's an award. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll-
That concludes my director's report. Thank you, Michael, Amy.
Thank you, that's a lot of information.
That's wonderful.
Michael and his team and actually all the staff have been really busy just trying to, this is a busy time for us because as we finalize our contracts and we've now resolved all of our appeals, and then we have all these events stacking up on each other.
It's a hard-working staff.
Yes, they are.
All right, our open session. Yes, sir.
A lot going on in Government Center. I'm just going to briefly touch on a few items. This morning, County Commissioners, they approved a contract with OMA Vantage to move Lucas County Children's Services into this building. This is a rebid. They rejected the first 3 contracts, and they'll pay them $122,000 to move all of their furniture into 7 floors in this building. I believe they're looking at June. I'm not sure. As we speak, the City Council Zoning and Planning Committee is meeting, and I'm very concerned about this. For reasons unknown, they have increased the number on the committee. It was 8, and they were having trouble putting together a quorum. They've now gone to all 12 members. This is not good. The scenario that I'm looking at is if there's something controversial, you're going to have people show up, I don't want this place in my neighborhood, and they'll be told at the beginning of the meeting, we don't have a quorum. We can still hear you speak, but we don't have a quorum and we can't vote. And so the council members will sit there with poker faces and you have no idea if anybody's listening to you. And at the end of the meeting, they will leave not knowing what City Council Zoning and Planning Committee is going to do, what they're going to recommend. If there's no quorum. If they would have to go to the agenda review committee and find out what the recommendation is. Is it yes? Is it no? Is it yes with conditions? They won't know. But there's no public testimony at agenda review. So this has the potential to make angry neighbors even angrier. There was no public discussion on this. They just decided to go from 8 to 12. They haven't been able to put together a quorum with 8. Now they're going to go to 12. It's not good. Tonight they are discussing the expansion of Cherry Street, Michigan. They're going to put a huge number of apartments on 2 blocks on Monroe Street. I don't think there's going to be any competition tonight. Last week at zoning, Plan Commission, we'll get a new mental health facility. It's called You Inspire Change. It's going to be located at 2820 LaGrange Street. It's going to provide both mental health counseling and recreation services for up to 30 young people. It says the ages are elementary school all the way to high school. They were heard last Thursday at Plan Commission. Nobody showed up to complain, but you never know. Sometimes they don't show up at Plan Commission. They wait to show up at City Council. So that was approved last week, and it'll be heard next month at City Council. The war on tobacco continues. I've talked about this before. For years, City Council has approved tobacco shops all over the city. Nobody ever shows up to complain. And last month, they had 2 of them, one on Door Street and one on Monroe Street. Somebody, The Junction Coalition wrote a letter and said, we think they're bad for neighborhoods. And on the basis of that one letter, they denied both of them. They had two in the pipeline, one at 135 South Burn Road. That one is gonna require a waiver because it's 225 feet from the Autism Academy, and another one at 4103 Monroe. They were to be heard last month, asked for a deferral. They would be heard last week, asked for another deferral. So they'll be heard probably at the May Plan Commission, and if they're approved, they'll go to the June City Council meeting. But I think it's clear that tobacco is a gateway drug, so Toledo has continued its war on tobacco. What else? Let's see. Apparently, I am the only person in Toledo that reads the USA Today. Last week on April the 9th, they had an article on TPS. It is not complimentary. It says we do not do enough to help students, and our teachers are poorly trained. It implies that racism is involved. I've shown this to the city council, the county commissioners, nobody, and I've suggested, why don't we bring in Dr. Durant or somebody and address this? But this is a national newspaper read by people all over the country. One of the first things you look at when you move to a new place is what are the schools like? And this is not good publicity. So hopefully they'll take a look at that. This Sunday is the 25th anniversary of one of the darkest days in the history of this board. It was 25 years ago that Dr. Wakefield Kahn was shot. He was a psychiatrist working at the Hampton building. He was a Unis employee. He was 54. He was my psychiatrist. And on April 24th, 1999, one of his patients walked in with a gun and just shot him. He did not die. He lapsed into a coma. And it bears mentioning, the day before that was the Columbine massacre. So the whole country was just reeling from that, all the way up to the president. He gave an impassionate speech. And then the very next day, we're hit with this. The publicity was not good. You know, gunman wounds Toledo psychiatrist. He lapsed into a coma and remained that way for a year and a half until September the 18th of 2000. All during that time, bad publicity, bad editorials. This one ran October the 24th of 2000. The Medicine Does Work. It's the Blade saying that this board should force outpatients to take antipsychotic medication. Now, the editorial staff of Blade, they're not stupid. They know perfectly well this board has no such authority, but it looks good in an editorial. Just say, yeah, oh, we're going to leave it. And he makes it look like the Blade is trying to protect the public and that this board doesn't really care. But it was some of the worst publicity this board has ever had. And this Sunday will be the 25th anniversary. He passed away September 18th of 2000, and the body was flown to his native Pakistan for burial. But he was very well respected in the community. It's a good example of how important the work of this board is and the important work of the agencies that you fund, that we need to get to people early before they deteriorate. If we get to them early, then they don't shoot their psychiatrists. But it's an important reminder, this Sunday, the 25th anniversary of that terrible tragedy. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Richard. You have so much information. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I remember that. I was